Good day, I'm Martin Gagel with Market Radius Research. It's Tuesday, March the 7th. We've got CEO Arnoud Busmann of MineHUB joining us today. MineHUB's a developer of supply chain management, trade finance, ESG tracking, and assay exchange information software for the natural resources industry. And the company just announced the acquisition or business combination of Waybridge Technologies. Arnoud is here to tell us about the transaction, what it means for their business and for the shareholders. But please remember, this is neither a recommendation or investment advice. We're here to learn about the news and the company. Arnoud, thanks a lot for taking the time to chat with us. Why don't you start off by giving us an overview of the company and the transaction before we get into the details?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Thanks, Martin. Good to be here again. So we've been with you for a number of times. So MineHub indeed is an enterprise platform. We're focused on digitizing commodity supply chains and extract all kinds of benefits out of that for its users. We have combined operations, and we acquired a company called Waybridge, which has a similar vision, but operating in a slightly adjacent or more downstream market. And the combination makes total sense. I mean, customers have suggested it sometimes, hey, shouldn't you guys go together because you're working on the same stuff? So, and lo and behold, that's what we just did. I've prepared a couple of slides just to make it a little bit clear on what that means and who does what, right, and how it all fits together. And I'll go through that briefly.
Great.
So let me just see if I can move this is the guidance notice. So MineHub and Waybridge, we're in a similar space, but we come from different parts of the supply chain. And by connecting the two companies, the two platforms, we are instantly forging really the digital backbone for commodity supply chains. When I get asked, hey, do you have any competitors in what you're doing? I usually say, well, not really, but there's one company that we started to run in a number of times, and that's Waybridge, right? And the combination is very powerful because it instantly becomes the standard. There's every customer is looking at two options that we talk to. One of them is MineHub, the other one is Waybridge. Now it makes it a lot easier. We are very complementary in terms of where we're based, where our customers are, and where our operations are. We have this transaction is immediately accretive to the MineHub financial base. We have immediate revenue and cost synergies. We will basically become the go-to option for all the industry leaders, right? It cements that initial decision that some of the industry leaders have taken. And we both can scale together really organically with very powerful network effects. So it's a fantastic combination, and I'm very, very pleased that we got this done. So, and as I mentioned, there are really two advanced platforms for digitizing supply chains, particularly in metal. And one of them is MineHub that we've been working on for the last years, and the other one is Waybridge. We start more on the producer, so the mining side, and connecting sales operations of mining companies to procurement operations of customers, being smelters, refiners, those parties. Waybridge has started on the manufacturing side, the fabricator side, particularly on procurement. So one of their, and it was in the press release, one of their big customers is Southwire, their Superior Essex. These are huge buyers of copper in the market, and they've managed to succeed to connect the suppliers to these companies. And these suppliers, the sales operations in the suppliers tends to be the colleagues of the procurement operations side of the MineHub users, right? So it's a very natural handshake there.
Arnoud, so sorry really to interrupt. So basically, if you could just go back the slide. So Waybridge, though they started off further down the supply chain with the actual manufacturers and them saying, we need to buy copper and other materials. And you started down with the miners were producing the ore and then refining it, going through the smelters, and you're kind of, their supply chain is meeting your supply chain kind of in the middle.
Exactly. While we were working on the mining side, we didn't really run into Waybridge, but as soon as we started dealing with some of the customers, we started hearing the name more, and similarly for the Waybridge guys, indeed. So it's a really hand in glove fit where we connect on the processing side. So we've really focused on streamlining commodity supply chains, simplifying information management, information flows, bringing it together in one place and one central database really for key information around physical commodity transactions. And we've been building that with industry leaders over the last period, and we've commercialized that last summer, signing contracts with BHP, with Sumitomo Corporation, with Capstone, and we are continuously engaging with our broader ecosystem. I think I put in our corporate updates earlier this year that we are in discussions with more than half of global copper mining, of companies that represent more than half of global copper mining production, and similarly with a substantial more than 2/3 of the smelting and refining capacity in China and Japan. So we've proven that we can scale, and we've proven that we can work with the industry leaders that can help us to really create that critical mass. Now, similarly, Waybridge has been focused on visibility, trade management, a bit further downstream, much more granular. We are focused on bulk shipments, Waybridge much more on the container-based shipments, and solving pain points particularly for procurement teams in terms of having much better visibility on their inbounds, optimizing stock levels, making sure that they don't have stock out situations where they have to shut down the plant, and very much focused on land-based shipments, particularly in North America. But they've been operating for a while, for 2 years in live processing, and already more than $7 billion of raw materials have been managed through that platform just last year, and that's growing fast now. So let me talk through some of the synergies that are there, and I'll go through in a bit more detail in some subsequent slides. But if you look at the combination is really much greater than some of the parts. So we've both been on a path to critical mass, both also in copper, and we would be starting to cross over at some point as we are both aiming for the critical mass. By joining forces, we don't have to cross over. It's the same path, right? And we will get there much faster because we started on both sides of the supply chain. Our customers are very excited about the increased network value because suddenly the chance that their key suppliers or key customers are already on board is much higher. And like any network play, having more parties on the network exponentially increases the value for users, and ultimately that will translate into more captured value for MineHub. We have a very comprehensive global coverage now, very focused on both from a customer perspective, from an operations perspective. And if you so we have customer presence, industrial customers in the key industrial nations being US, China, Japan. We've got operations and activities in the key mining jurisdictions like Chile, but especially Canada, Australia. And we have operations in the key finance markets like Singapore, New York, and London. So very comprehensive coverage there where we can serve our customers on the ground with local teams. We cover the full supply chain now from mine to manufacturing. We started really on the mining side, working our way downstream. Suddenly we added this new leg instantly through this combination. We see that there's a lot of consolidation happening, particularly in the tech sector. This opportunity, this strengthens our position in the market and is not unlikely to become a gravitational force for further consolidation for opportunities as they come on our path. And we both have been validated by the market. We both have revenue that has started, that is accumulating. Waybridge has been generating revenue for a couple of years, saw a significant acceleration last year. Now the combination is going to really put this revenue acceleration on, I wouldn't say on steroids, but it's going to really drive that, which makes me optimistic and see both companies being able to reach their break-even points sooner than could be expected in a more standalone way. Now, if I look at the diagrammatically what that looks like, we come on the left-hand side, Waybridge comes in on the right-hand side. Together, we cover that full part of the supply chain that is commodity-based after it becomes a bit more specialized. And it's particularly in this commodity base that industry is increasingly looking to get more information on where material comes from. For an industry, I'm talking about energy transition, it's general energy, it's infrastructure, construction, OEM, automotive, huge industries in themselves, and all of them are facing the question, where do my materials come from? What is the emissions content? And is it compliant with my purchasing policies and trade regulations? The combination of our platforms, the data combination, will have exactly all that. We're extending our product functionality for customers. So it's looking at the assay exchange, the finance platform, trade management, that we both have a solution for ESG sustainability, both of us. And then moving into the land-based tracking, which is really, particularly in the US, a complex service to provide, and Waybridge does that fantastically. And then we have got our inventory management, which is more focused on stock management and ultimately stock financing. This is our presence. We have yet to start scratching the surface in Africa, but for the rest, most places we are now active in one form or another. And the team combination is it's very robust now, right? So we've got all the technology expertise that we could possibly need in the company. We have business expertise across all the dimensions, including climate markets, for instance, and geographical locations give us the coverage that we need to scale faster. And that's roughly an overview where we are.
All right. With acquisitions and mergers, sort of starting them is the easy part, but the integration is often where you get a hiccup here. You're both two relatively small organizations. What all needs to get integrated? The technology, the teams, like you're acquiring clients and technology. Is there a lot of integration risk you think here?
No, we're not taking any integration risk. First of all, I think you need to look at why some of the mergers, acquisitions can be challenging. Quite often there's a rationalization need in terms of people, which creates political tensions and resistance. Potentially there's an obsolescence of systems which involve people. None of that is the case here. I mean, both full teams are there. We're going full force ahead. We've both got aggressive roadmaps. We've got demanding customers to serve. So our main job over the next period is to make sure that we keep our eyes on the ball and focus on serving the customers and building the functionality that we need to build. We will have synergies because sometimes we talk to the same customers, so that saves time, frees up capacity for other customers. We don't see a need to do any technical integration immediately. Over time, we will look at synergies at a data level, particularly as it comes down to traceability. We will be more focused on extracting synergies on our roadmap. Maybe we don't have to build certain things, maybe Waybridge, maybe on the MineHub platform, maybe we don't have to build certain things on the Waybridge platform, so that saves money. But in general, what I've encountered throughout this process is a very, very strong alignment between the companies, the teams, common vision, common learnings, excitement about what we're going to do, and a complete absence of any politics or concerns that you might otherwise expect. So I think we've been tackling most of the critical risk factors. Our customers, one of the concerns always is customer attrition. What we've encountered is just a very warm embrace by customers on both sides that this is a very, very good transaction for them as well.
So in terms of your branding, are there going to be like, or is it going to, you sort of buy the Waybridge part and then you buy the MineHub part, and then there's that overlap on that one chart you had, you click a link and then all of a sudden you transition from MineHub to Waybridge, or are they just two separate software systems that sort of end up sort of jumping from one to the next?
That's exactly what we'll be working through over the next period. Funnily enough, it's the most asked question, but it's not our biggest problem to solve at this stage. We've got very loyal customers on both sides. I think from a branding perspective, there's pros and cons. I mean, one of the things I've always liked about the Waybridge brand is, in theory, MineHub is a commodity agnostic platform, or not in theory, in practice. but it's called MineHub, right? So we can easily handle Brazilian meat or coffee on the MineHub platform, but it sort of doesn't gel well. Waybridge is a bit more of a generic name in that regards.
Yeah.
On the other hand, we do have solutions that are very specific to the mining industry, so I'm quite keen to retain that brand. The way I look at this is such a fantastic transaction. It's one of the luxury problems that we're going to solve over the next period and figure out.
And there's no hurry to figure it out tomorrow. It's not like you're like a big brand. Anyways, that's something to be figured out later on. It's not
exactly
nothing to lose sleep over. Okay. So you mentioned, like, are you keeping the Waybridge technical team and development team, and they're working on their stuff, you're working on their stuff, and then overlap and collaborate where it makes sense?
Of course. I mean, we fully keep both teams because we need all the capacity we can get. And we want to make sure that the product continuity is guaranteed. And over time, we will start a process of osmosis through learning. Maybe Waybridge engineers will pick up a job on the miner platform and vice versa. At the same time, there's cross-company learning happening because we have complementary stacks, which means that we can learn from each other. And each team has made decisions that might be, for certain reasons, that we might be able to leverage on the other side as well, but carefully. Yeah, there's a temptation to start playing with the new toys, but we need to keep our focus really on serving our customers and then continuously enhancing the capability of the respective platforms.
All right. And MineHub's always been a sort of a distributed organization with people spread around. Is Waybridge the same? So like you don't have to centralize head offices or anything like that?
Waybridge has been quite US centric, particularly New York, the main base, where we had nobody. But also with a strong presence in the UK and London, where we have a strong presence as well. And there we are immediately taking some obvious synergies like facilities and others and some of the overhead costs. So it will be, I would say that our operational hubs, our main hubs are New York, London, and Shanghai.
Okay. All right. And so let's talk about the cost of it. It's $2.5 million US in shares you're paying for it. You've got around a $30 million market cap. So that's kind of 10% dilution to acquire this business. Is that roughly right?
Yeah, no, it's fantastic, right? And it's I mean the markets move in mysterious ways, I guess, if I look at the price action today. But if you look at it from with a certain perspective, so potentially this transaction is going to triple the MineHub revenue, right? It will fast forward us potentially by a year on an exponential growth curve. We are significantly de-risking the venture on side of because we've got multiple strong paying customers. It becomes less dependent on one individual customer, right? We've got a team that now is 35 people. That is a significant force that de-risks key man risk, gives us global coverage. In all respects, the transaction is fantastic. And is highly accretive to the business, and indeed it's a 10% dilution. So I think every MineHub shareholder should be pretty pleased with this result.
All right, and can you get, like, it's triple your revenues? I'm not sure, is that your run rate? Can you give us some sense of what the organization's revenues will be and the head count, and I guess, are you, how is your capitalization? How does this extend the runway for any financing requirements, or is it a bigger need of capital?
It's definitely more mouths to feed, but there's a lot more coming in, right? So I don't want to go necessarily into the specifics on financing needs and burn rates and stuff like that, but it's I expect that the combined organization is about 32 people on the payroll. So now that's a significant burn, but what I do expect is because of this, and again, this is an expectation, and potentially we'll see us bring forward our break-even point significantly as well because of the accelerating revenue.
Okay. All right. And can you give us a sense of the level of revenue, or is that you still have to work through some of that?
It's we have to work through that, but I think I do expect, based on the contracts that are there, that we should be able to give a bit more visibility and guidance probably in the second half of the year, what that revenue build will start looking like. At some point this year, I'd also like to move to more quarterly updates to explain what we're doing and where we're going. The
evolution of a fast-growing business.
Oh no, it's fantastic, right? So this is a real fast forward. I mean, I never doubted our path and where we're going, but this is just an opportunity that everybody should be excited about.
Yeah. All right. I think have we hit all the high points on this, or is there anything else you want to bring up before we wrap it up here?
No, I think this is it. Yeah, I just extremely pleased that we are able to make a jump for everybody, and also the customer value this will generate is significant. And that should, I mean, the investor value is of course obvious, but the customer value is significant, particularly as we move into a world where, let's say, traceability, compliance with new trade regulations, particularly the Inflation Reduction Act in the US and others, becomes increasingly important to understand exactly where supply chains get their stuff from. And if you look at our picture that I just showed, the data for that is going to be in one place, and it's going to be the MineHub Waybridge platform and the combined service.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought of that. With ESG, obviously there's tracking, but with the Inflation Reduction Act, Biden wants to know where certain components are coming from here and there. And that's just a whole new dimension of data that I don't think was really incorporated into legacy ERP systems and supply chain stuff. So that's really...
Exactly. And then having that strong customer base in the US plays right into that, right? So it's a key thing. But the emissions accounting, one of the hard things to do is understanding the emissions footprint, particularly scope 3, throughout a supply chain, and particularly as it goes through the heavy industry, the transformative processes like smelting and refining and so in the steel mills, etc. So if you now have all that in one place, that data is there, right? So you can calculate it, and this is the hard bit, and it's going to be fundamental for any company in the near future to retain access to capital, retain access to markets, retain access to customers, to have that information readily available and based on primary data, not secondary data. So it's very exciting to start building that comprehensive data set at the most complicated part of the supply chain.
All right, Arnoud, thank you very much. That was a great update.
Thank you. Speak soon.